On this edition of Let's Explore This, we are going to discuss a site on the National Register of Historic Places that is not a building. Yes, this thing here, it is not a building. Well, I guess you could call it one. It certainly was built and is part of the built environment. It is, however, not something defined by walls. No, it's a piece of machinery. And it is what we will be discussing on this episode. Before we discuss it in great detail, first, I need to show you something. Here, it appears as if someone was having fun in the sand. I wonder who that could have been. But why might we be discussing a piece of machinery, you might ask? Well, because some might be asking, just what is this thing? Well, it alone is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. In fact, it must be important enough to have been listed as far back as 1971. These days, it is located on the town common, a tract of land that is just as well listed on the National Register. But this thing, it was not always here. Let me explain. What this is a cotton press, and it is approximately 22 feet in height. It is constructed of heart pine, mortised and tenoned together. In other words, it is a timber-framed structure. However, a few elements do appear to have nails, like this. So, tell me, is this, and other beams here like it, part of the original structure? And what about the frame that supports the central shaft? It consists of 4 posts, each measuring 11 inches in width and approximately 17 feet in height, each supported by 2 braces. Okay, so I am still trying to figure out if these horizontal nailed braces are even necessary. I am assuming they were put in place for added support. They just seem so thin versus the heavy timbers. Really? Is it gonna fall down? Now, I am not an engineer, but still, where there are braces, there are load-bearing elements. That's why the outside columns are so necessary. But these, they seem a bit like overkill, but I don't know. Anyhow, the upper portion of the shaft is enclosed by girts mortised into the posts with flat panels. Now, what is a mortise? Well, here you have a mortise, and here you have a tenon. And it kind of goes something like this. Male goes into female. You get the picture. Anyhow, across the top of the shaft is a single beam with an animal hitch or sweep attached to each end. I am assuming this is what they are talking about. Single beam with an animal hitch. Not sure. That is just not as descriptive as I'd like it to be. Then these may be the girts, which definitely do appear to be structural members. But you know, though, that appears to be a through mortise and tenon. That large block of wood has been surgically sawed or chiseled to ensure both its ends were carved into smaller tenons. There is, however, a reason why that is called an animal hitch. You see, the sweeps were rotated by mules, which drove the shaft, a large wooden screw, measuring 19 inches in diameter, down on a wooden block. And under the screw was placed from 300 to 500 pounds of cotton to be compressed into bales. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm trying to visualize this whole contraption. So the mules would be turning around like this, which makes sense because that screw is threaded. So the mules would be going in a direction to make sure that the screw would come down on that wooden block. Yes, that block is actually on the other side of where I'm standing now, but here's the thing about those animal hitches. I just don't think, well, maybe this whole thing moved. Like these arms here moved and this whole internal structure here moved. And what was braced on the ground was the outside perimeter only, via these columns. I mean, these things are raised up. So maybe these were lifted up, and they could be moved, which means in order to situate this thing, there would have had to have been something on the ground that it would move on. I just don't think it would be left to hang in the middle with no support at the bottom without any activity. Maybe it's heavy enough that it would hold it. It just doesn't seem right. Something seems off on that idea. Maybe these things here were braced to the ground, and the only thing the mules moved was the inside of here, the screw. But if those are the animal hitches, then the mules would have had to turn the internal compartment, including these braces. I do not see that as being possible, because there is nothing up there. It's perfectly square. You couldn't really turn these in any direction, because they're not round. The only thing round is up there, so where's the animal hitch that would move that? I don't think those are it. I don't know where it's at. That one's got me perplexed. Maybe it has been removed? Unless it's up in there and I can't see it. But I am trying to figure out how that screw thing would move. I don't think they moved the middle compartment. I think this must have been braced to the ground. I could be wrong. Maybe there was something here, but I don't think so. I don't think it would move that way. It's just too square. Wait a minute. There does appear to be something up there, but I can't tell if that's a structural member. There's beams up there. I don't know, but it has to be here somewhere, or it might have been removed for some reason. I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out. I mean, it makes sense that the shaft would move. I mean, to me, they would have something around the shaft that they could move, but then they would have to have something on the outside. Just think about it. If the mules were attached to cords coming down from the screw, that wouldn't work either. The cords, then, they would just get wrapped around here, and that wouldn't be good. That would need to be free. So maybe they did turn this whole thing somehow. That just doesn't seem possible either. I'm trying to figure out how they got that to work. Wait a minute. You know, as I was going to talk about the next entry in my discussion of the cotton press, I walked outside, looked up, and now I'm thinking, maybe there's the animal hitch. was on the outside. That makes more sense. Then the mules could be attached to cords coming down the structure, like this. I mean, yes, they would have to be far enough away from it to make sure those cords did not rub against the roof. Nonetheless, the mules, they could simply go this way and turn that screw. That does make a lot more sense, and I am assuming that's probably what they're referring to as the animal hitch. I think it's actually up there. So, these here are not the animal hitches, I don't think. I think they're the girts. They are definitely structural members. I mean, the whole top of the shaft there is this big structural member. Just look at how big those boards are to hold that screw in place, keeping that screw to avoid it from vibrating back and forth. You know, that wouldn't be good. But anyhow, the press itself, it is protected by a small octagonal roof above the central shaft. Apparently, originally, this thing had a shed roof covering the rest of the structure. The Edgecombe County Historical Society plans to replace the shed roof in the future. What? Oh, well, this document, it goes way back to 1971, so in the near future. Yeah, now it's, 2020. Wow, wait a minute. So, why are these years different? We have here in 1860 and in 1840? Tell me, folks, which one of those is the correct year that this thing was built? Sure, it says here circa 1840, but it is a 20-year difference. Is that okay with the word circa? I don't know. I would think that's kind of a stretch. But tell me, do they know when this thing was built? Or don't they? Are they still unsure of the year? That's kind of interesting. I wonder how many people come here, take a look at the cotton press and notice the difference in years here. Yes, there is this big 20-year difference. That, however, is not what we're talking about right at this moment. We are going to get into the history of this thing a bit later. Well, quite soon, actually. But what we really need to talk about now, which is why we're discussing 2020, because that's the year we're in, is the roof. That doesn't look like a shed roof to me. Those there are wood shingles. I guess you could call it a shed roof. I'm thinking shed roof is probably not hipped. This does more look like a very steeply pitched hipped roof with an octagonal tower. Yes, I guess. I don't know if I'd call that a true hipped roof, but close enough. A shed roof, though, I mean, the way it comes down could be thought of as a shed roof. Side to side, so to speak. Nonetheless, I think they have redone the roof. I mean, it does look well kept. Okay, folks, tell me, where did this thing, this cotton press, actually come from? Well, I could just sit back and let you read this sign. However, I am going to go into the history of this thing with a tad bit more detail. So, this cotton press, it was constructed by a man, Isaac Norfleet, circa 1840, on his plantation located 2.5 miles southwest of Tarboro. I am standing near, or even in, that area right now. Hey, look! We found a Tarboro doggy. He's kind of cute. So, Norfleet, he was this wealthy planter. Oh, and he was a politician. He was Justice of the Peace, and in 1815 he was appointed to codify the laws of North Carolina. The press he built, it was powered by mules. Interestingly, though, this very press, it was originally used for pressing cider and wine. It was not until 1860 that it was converted for use in baling cotton. Okay, folks, it looks like there's something white inside there. What is that? How am I going to be able to get a closer look at that? I got an idea. So, what is that? It kind of looks like a bottle. That might be what it is, but how did it get over there? I mean, somebody would have had to put their arm in here, like me with the camera, and toss it over there from, like, over here. Simply stated, you can't really get it over there from any other way. I mean, you probably could drop it through there. That's one way you could get it over there. The question does remain, though. What is that doing there? And why is there a lighter here? So, somebody must have been sitting here smoking. And a coffee cup. Litter bugs. Anyhow, did you know that in 1860, Edgecombe County was the largest cotton producer in North Carolina with an annual production of 15,000 bales? No. Well, you do now. I guess, given all that cotton, this here timber-framed structure must have been put to work. If not around the clock, then close to it. And with all those tenons, I sure hope it never got tendonitis, or, wait, isn't that supposed to be tendon with a D? Now, get a load of this. This press, it was moved from the plantation to the Tarboro Town Common circa 1938 by the Edgecombe County Historical Society. Today, it exists as one of the few remaining examples of the type of machinery used by southern cotton growers in the 19th century. So yes, it is an important piece of machinery, and it is probably older than your great-great-grandparents. But now, you know the drill. We must move on to our next destination.